Imagine a group of European men dressed in suits and sipping brandy in a well-lit room in Berlin, slicing up a continent they had never truly understood. No African leaders were invited. No tribal elders consulted. No consideration for cultures, languages, or histories. Just pens, maps, and greed. This was the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885, the infamous meeting where European powers divided Africa among themselves, like a giant, rich, and unfamiliar pizza. The way the lines were drawn ignored rivers, ethnicities, religions, and trade, routes. What mattered was how easily each slice could be served up to Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, and others. Before Europe's rulers brought out the knives, Africa was already home to ancient empires: Mali, Ghana, Benin, Aksum, Kemet, each. With complex societies, trade networks, and diplomacy, borders were fluid, often based on shared language, kinship, and seasonal migration. Kingdoms respected sacred lands, tribal customs, and local alliances. But to the colonizers, Africa was a blank slate, the dark continent, waiting to be tamed and exploited. Their maps didn't mark communities. They marked resources: gold, rubber, ivory, slaves. The madness of this pizza slice partitioning left visible scars. Lines were drawn straight through ethnic groups like the Yu, Somali, and Hausa. The same group of people could end up in different colonies, speaking different imposed languages: English here, French there, Portuguese over there. Meanwhile, strangers who had long-standing rivalries, like the Hutu and Tutsi in Rwanda, were forced into artificial unity under foreign control. Colonial powers didn't just divide, they planted the seeds of future civil wars. Belgium took the Congo like a greedy man grabbing the largest slice, and under King Leopold II, it became one of history's most brutal examples of colonization. Millions of Congolese died through forced labor and mutilation, all in service of European rubber profits. The British Empire, the self-declared gentlemen of colonization, drew borders with a cold efficiency, stretching their territories from Egypt to South Africa, with little regard for the chaos it would create. France and Portugal weren't much better. Everyone wanted a piece of Africa's wealth, and no one wanted to clean up the mess afterward. By the time African nations gained independence in the mid-20th century, they were trapped inside boundaries they never asked for. These artificial borders created political dysfunction. Rival tribes were now expected to share governments. Natural allies were left stranded in foreign countries. Civil wars broke out. Coups followed. Dictators rose, sometimes backed by the very powers that had left, and corruption flourished. The pizza slice borders had turned Africa into a puzzle made of broken pieces with no clear way to put it back together. Even today, the effects of Europe's slicing remain. Nigeria, for example, has over 250 ethnic groups squeezed into a single nation, often struggling with internal strife. Sudan was split in two after years of bloody conflict. Ethiopia, one of the few nations that resisted colonization, still wrestles with internal divisions fueled by ethnic tensions. Africa's problems are not just born from internal issues. They were designed by external greed. Colonizers carved out borders for profit, not peace. But despite the chaos, Africa endures. New generations are rising, aware of the history, and determined to reshape their countries on their own terms. Pan-African movements are growing. Trade agreements, language revitalization, and regional alliances hint at a future beyond the lines drawn by colonial rulers. The youth are reclaiming their identities, rewriting narratives, and building new visions from old wounds. They know the borders are false, but the spirit of the continent is real. The truth is, Europe didn't just draw Africa's borders like a pizza slice. It treated the entire continent like a buffet. And what was taken wasn't just land, but memory, unity, and trust. The challenge now is healing, and healing takes time, but it also takes truth. To understand Africa's present, one must confront its past. Until the world admits that the map of Africa was drawn in ignorance and arrogance, the scars will remain. Yet in every village, city, and nation across the continent, there's a quiet strength that says, "We are more than the lines they drew."